Musically. Musically.
Hello, and welcome to Relationship Soup. I'm your host, Lisa Hughes. Happy Tuesday, happy Tuesday, happy Tuesday. How y'all doing today? I hope your week is off to a great start. Mine is. I really can't complain. Got through Thanksgiving, looking forward to the upcoming holiday, looking forward to what's to come. So anyway, I really can't complain too much. All right. Now, thank you all for joining me. I really appreciate you. I hope you all had a wonderful day. Uh, so anyway, of course, I got to do my spiel before I get into what today's show is going to be about. Okay, so of course, you should be liking, following across all platforms. And if you ain't, you tripping. So if you not, this is your opportunity to like and subscribe, share this video, share all of this, right? Tell a friend, bring a friend next time. All right. So on YouTube is Relationship Soup, period. You got to put the period in there. And then on Facebook is Relationship Soup Group. On IG is Relationship Soup. If you want to follow me, it's Relationship Soup LLC. And of course, if you need some apparel, greeting cards, please hit up relationshipsoup.com. All right, so y'all know I always gotta get my spiel done. All right, so I see that some of you have started to join already. Good evening. Thank you for joining me, cousin. I appreciate you. I really appreciate you. Thank you so much for joining me. All right, so like all other shows, you're more than welcome to join the studio. So I'm going to go ahead and put this link out here. So if you want to join us in the studio, please feel free to do that. There's always room for more, right? So I'm going to go ahead and get that in there. Boom. So it should be in the chat. Boom. So if you want to come and join the studio, I already have a couple of listeners in the studio now, familiar listeners. And yeah, come join us. But anyway, I want to get into today's show because it's close to my own heart. I'm really learning to stay in the moment, be intentional with staying in the moment and being positive and looking forward. Okay. So today's show, which is the 52nd episode, this one is entitled Navigating Relationships during the festive season. Okay. Now, basically, what we're going to get into in this show, like the holidays, although they are a time of connecting with your family, connectedness, love, all of that, right? Supposed to be joyful, happy. We all know that sometimes those very feelings can be accompanied by stress, grief, loss, loneliness, and all of that, right? So while, the holidays can be a great time of the year, it could also be a very depressing, stressful time of the year. And, just to even share my own personal story, I mean, you all are pretty familiar with what I went through in 2023. And for my new listeners, just to kind of give you kind of a little insight into my life. In 2023, I lost my dad. Okay, he transitioned to be with the Lord, and I also went through a divorce. Now, just so that you can have an idea how close these events were, my father died March 6th. We had his funeral, and a week after my father's funeral, my divorce was final. So, I'm dealing with all of that during the spring. So, these holidays have been different because, I've been dealing with having to find a new normal, dealing with loss and grief. And as a matter of fact, y'all know grief is a crazy thing. Like you can just be upbeat, joyful, happy, going about your routine, and then it'll be that small thing to trigger it. And actually over the holidays I was actually looking for something in my drawer, and I came across one of my dad's pictures, and instantly I'm bawling, right? Actually it was around Thanksgiving. So I just want to get into that tonight because I mean we've all have dealt with loss and grief, and I think this show would be a good one because we need to talk about those things to help us get through it, right? So anyway, this is why I really want to get into this. Let's just talk about how we can get through this, some of the stressors and stuff that we experience. And I see y'all comments. See, you know what? It's always a couple of those comments that throw me off. All right, so let me go ahead and bring them on. Vernon Owens, thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate that. Thank you so much for joining me. What's up, Coach Wilson? Lady in Red. You know what? For the holiday season, red is for the season, right? Absolutely. Thank you so much, Derek, for joining me as well. Good evening, Bright Star. I appreciate that. All right, so boom. Now, let me go ahead and get into this. So, like I said, during the holidays, it can be joyful, it can be all of these things, but truly, even holiday expectations, right? You know, during Thanksgiving, if you're hosting Thanksgiving, like there's certain expectations that can come, and even though that's supposed to be joyful and you about to get full, it can be very stressful. And then, with the holidays, gift giving, and we all know finances can be crazy, right? Finances can be a challenge. And so, with the expectations with Christmas, if you have family, friends, you're buying gifts, and you have to balance all of that. So anyway, somebody wrap her up and slide her down. All right, Jay, I see you. I see you. Look, I don't want to go down no chimneys. They kind of dirty. All right. So, and again, and I personally want to send prayer, love, and light to everyone in my timeline that is dealing with loss. Okay. I have read so many posts. I know acquaintance of mine just lost his mom. So love, prayer, and light to you. And I've seen so many posts about how the holidays are not the same, especially when you lose your mom or your dad or just anyone who was really special to you, a spouse. And loss is just not death, it's a breakup. It can be a breakup, divorce, whatever. So like I said, we're going to get into all of that today. Thank you for joining me, Leah Nicole. I really appreciate you. Thank you so much for joining me. M. Woodson, what's the science? Good evening, good evening, good evening. Dr. Cooper, thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate that. Still, this new material, this new wrapping paper, it ain't that great. It tear real easily. Even when you put the little tape on there, it just tear real easy. Or maybe because I was getting mine from the dollar store. Good evening, beautiful. Thank you for joining me, Mrs. Parker. I appreciate you. All right, so boom. So y'all, let's go ahead and get into it. So let me ask y'all a question. For those of you who have dealt with grief or whatever, how are y'all dealing with it this holiday season or any holiday season? What did you do to deal with it? Because even though, like I said, I've started creating a new normal, new traditions and different things like that, doing things from like volunteering to spending time with friends or whatever, right? Well, how are y'all dealing with y'all grief during the holiday? So feel free to put that in the chat. Um, and how are you coping? What are some strategies that y'all are using, right? Because I know that there's people that are watching that could use that advice. I know I can. I'm still navigating. I ain't gonna act like I'm perfect with this grief thing because I really feel that I'll just say me personally, I'll speak for myself. I'll never get over the loss of my father. I'll just get through it. I'll just create a new normal. As far as my divorce, I'm over that. You know what I mean? But as far as my dad, yeah, I'm just gonna get through that. So what's some stuff? What advice do you have, right? Um, so like I said, one thing I started to do was find new traditions. Another thing is this is really, really, really important. You have to recognize your feelings, okay? Regardless, and I know the little inside jokes, okay? I am a Cancer. My astrological sign is a Cancer. But I'm not really a crybaby. In fact, I hate to cry. I don't like to cry. So, even with dealing with this grief, losing my dad and everything, it's hard for me to cry, but I have been more intentional with allowing the tears to fall because that's part of it. I think being able to acknowledge those feelings, being able to cry or however you deal with grief, wherever level you're at, I think that's really important to do. So let me see what y'all got for me. So Coach Wilson says, I go to the cemetery once a month and I cry until I can't cry anymore over the people's graves that I've lost. Absolutely, that makes sense. Again, acknowledging that and allowing yourself to feel through your emotions, right? Which has not always been something easy for me. And I was actually talking to someone and she told me, you don't like to cry. That ain't good to keep all that bottled up, right? So um, I ugly cry. Listen, Mrs. Parker, I had the color purple cry. Okay. Like I had to. I had to let it out because like I'm keeping, I'm stiffening my back most of the time, trying not to cry because I'm like, okay, I'm strong. I can get through this. But no, I had to let that out. Let's see here. So Derek says, I'm still doing therapy, meditation, maintaining boundaries, and honoring people's memories. Absolutely. And I like what you said about honoring the memory. Um, And as I'm thinking about it, you can honor the memory, but sometimes those memories can be triggers, which kind of send you on a spiral, right? So, I guess it's finding the balance with that. I'm a Cancer too. We are naturally emotional beings. Yes, we are, Nikki. Yes, we are, Nicole. We are. We are emotional beings. We're very empathetic. We can feel everything, right? So, look, if you're trying to get over on a Cancer, don't. We're going to feel it. We're going to dream it. We're going to know it. So, anyway. So that's that. All right. So let's see here. And I think it's really important too is to adjust your expectations. It's okay that, and this is what I had to do for myself too. And y'all chime in at any time. These holidays moving forward are not going to look like the other ones. They're just not, right? My daddy's gone. And although I do find the blessing because I still have my mom. I still do have, my siblings and different things like that. I've been blessed with some divine connections and they know who they are, right? So that really helps out a lot. Sometimes you just have to adjust your expectations, okay? Now, let me ask y'all this, okay? So, how do y'all communicate when y'all feeling grief or loss? Like, do y'all tell y'all loved ones or friends or do y'all hold it in? Okay. So that's the question for you. When you are experiencing this grief, especially during the holidays, let's just keep it in the holidays. Okay. Are y'all communicating when y'all feel bad? Because I was actually having a conversation with someone and they were saying how, um, they don't like to, let people like they like to grieve in peace. Like they kind of like to recluse. I'm just paraphrasing, okay? They kind of like to recluse and they don't like really put that weight on anyone else. Are y'all like that as well? And is that a good thing? So let me see here. I see that there is another comment. So Nicole says, I miss my grandmother so much, even though it's been a while since her passing. It was during the holiday right before Christmas. Oh, I'm so sorry, Nicole. And love and light to you. My condolences, because even though time has passed, it can feel as fresh as it happening yesterday, right? I found peace in honoring her memories by doing things she loved. She was a plant fanatic. Those were her babies. So I have carried that on. Sometimes I'll watch her old TV shows she liked. Absolutely. That makes sense. That makes sense to carry on their memories. And plants in itself is therapeutic. Planting. All right, so Derek says, my cousin lost his dad yesterday. Oh my goodness. Love, light, and condolences to your cousin. Oh my goodness. Another friend lost her granny who was like her mom. Both were in that circle I told you about that played me. Oh, yes. Well, still love and light to them because I've never experienced an easy loss. Does easy and loss go in the same sentence? Like, I've never experienced a loss that was that easy. So Derek said, cuz assume I knew and sent me a message calling me fake as if ain't said a word to me in months. Wow. 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 And see, and you know what, Derek, what you're talking about now is another point that I want to touch on as well, because let's just be real. Sometimes these holidays, when you get in with family and when things happen or whatever, it bring out the bad. Like there was a situation within my family that was getting kind of tense. And it's just like, sometimes the holidays bring those things out. And maybe it's just because, whatever a person's feeling and then they, project that to you. I don't know. But we have to figure out, how do we deal with loss? How do we deal with the whole drama that happens with the holidays, arguing and all of that stuff? That can happen during the holidays really easy. All right, so Derek says, now I have two funerals to attend with a bunch of fake folks, but I'll pay my respects and give condolences and keep it pushing. Absolutely. And Derek, for your own mental health, and that is what I am really being intentional about, just with my whole healing and self-care journey. I am picking and choosing my battles. I am doing that. And I don't really want to invest a lot of energy to small things, okay? Because I'm gonna need that energy to get through when I'm grieving, or if another family member comes to me and they're grieving or something like that. I'm just really being selective. Peace is at the forefront, and if it's not complimentary of that, I don't even know what to tell you. Feel me? Like I'm not gonna do it. I ain't gonna be sitting up arguing. I ain't gonna do that. If I don't want to be bothered, listen, I'll cut it all off. And you have to do that. You have to do that. And I think it's kind of a toxic way of thinking to think just because people your family, because people your blood. And I have wonderful family members, okay? This does not go for all of them. I'm saying, to me, it's a toxic way of thinking to think just because they're my family, I have to be bothered. No, you don't. You don't. If your family is being toxic to you, if they're triggering you or different things, I say you have to look out for self first and you have to cut it off. That's all I'm saying. And you determine how long that is. I just think it's toxic to feel just because people are your family, and when they do you wrong that you have to deal with them. No, I don't feel like you have to. What y'all think? Hello, cousin. Just lost a cousin this morning. We talked about, oh, our good times, my sister and I. Oh my goodness. Love and light, cousin. Oh my goodness. Sending y'all love and light and my condolences and prayer too. Let me put that prayer in there, because God, I ain't forgot about you, God. I ain't forgot. That goes without saying, right? So sending y'all prayer. I'm so sorry to hear about that. And it is good to be able to talk about your loved one to your support, whether that support is your family or your friends. And like I said, my counsel, they know who they are. When I tell you they were like my therapist, for real, being able to talk about those feelings, talk about the loss, talk about the loved one that's no longer here, that really helps a lot. So M. Woodson says agreed. Absolutely, absolutely. And I know, Miss Woodson, that you're dealing with a lot of loss. You've lost some major players in your family, like, and so love and light and prayer to you as well. All right, so let's see here. So what am I trying to say? You got to be honest, okay? And you got to set boundaries, especially with these when these gatherings happen, because we all want to play. Who don't want to play? Yeah, don't y'all? Did y'all get a plate last Thursday? Right. So it's like, why miss out on the vittles because you ain't getting along? Okay, so if it's not going to impact your mental health, I'm trying to be funny, right? Y'all know I think I'm a closet comedian sometime, right? But it's really important to set boundaries. Like, say if you are at one of your family gatherings and it's starting to feel overwhelming, bounce out. That's okay. Because at the end of the day, your mental health is really important, right? And you can't pour from an empty cup, especially if you have children, if you have a family of your own and your extended family members and stuff. I'm telling you, like, it's okay to set those boundaries, okay? Whether that means you leave early or, you communicate, look, I gotta go, whatever. Remember, you got to put yourself first. And it is not selfish to do that. When you are being selfless about self, are you really being selfish? Think about that. If you're being selfless to yourself, if you're loving on yourself, you're giving yourself self-care and different things like that, right? Is that really being selfish? That's just what I'm thinking. Absolutely. You're welcome, Miss Woodson. Sending all of y'all, Eddie, all of y'all, love and light. So much love and light and prayer. Hi, cousin. My deepest sympathy for your loss. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Yeah, that was one of the biggest losses. Like, when I speak of my losses from 2023, yeah, my dad was my biggest loss, biggest loss. All right, so let's see here. Now, let me ask y'all this, because more than likely you are a support to somebody, okay? And y'all in the studio, I ain't forgot about y'all. I'm bring y'all on. You are a support to somebody, whether it's a friend coming to you talking about the drama, the loss, or whatever, whether it's your sibling, family, whatever. So my question to you is this: how do you support someone dealing with grief? How do you support people through the drama? What do y'all be doing? Tell me what y'all be doing. Tell me in the comments, right? Uh, so I'll just kind of talk about some of the things that I've done, because I definitely have friends and family that turn to me in times of grief, right? And loss and stuff like that. So I think it's really important to listen without trying to fix, and to listen without, sometimes it doesn't require you to say anything. When it comes to grief and loss, I find myself sometimes at a loss of words. So, I'll just say something to the effect of, hey, I'm listening. I'm here for you if you need anything or whatever, because sometimes there just aren't any words. What can you say? And pray for you? Yes, you can say that. I'm just saying, like, so how do you support? M. Woodson, Malik Wilson, what's the science? You're actually good at this. The fact that your thoughts flow. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. I appreciate that. I really appreciate that. Another thing you have to think about is beware of emotional triggers, especially during the holidays. There's music, there's memories, there's all kind of um, things going on. So one way to support is just to check on your loved one, or whoever's experiencing the loss, because I mean, honestly, it's a lot going on. So just to check on the person, hey, or send them a text, I'm just checking on you to make sure that you're cool. That's a way to support as well. And I can truly say that even when my father passed, even to this day, I still have friends and family that will check on me. Hey, I was just thinking about you. You good? And that means a lot. Those two words, you good? That's enough for me. That makes me feel that I'm not alone, that I'm supported and stuff like that. So those are some things that you can do as well. Um, I'll check on them, especially before holidays, or send cards. Greeting cards are amazing. And shameless plug, the relationshipsoup.com website, I have cards for sympathy. I have different cards that can show that have an affirmation that you can give your loved one, right? Let's see here, some other things, and of course you have to respect boundaries, okay? And by doing that, if you want to let a person know that you're there for them, especially if they're a recluse, you can say something to the extent of, hey, just know I'm here for you. So that way, that respects their boundary, and that also gives them the option to contact you should they want to reach out to you. All right. And I see y'all in the studio. I promise I'm gonna bring y'all on here in a minute, okay? Um, so let's see here. Now, this is another thing that I want to get into. Have y'all ever gotten into an argument with, it could be a boo, a family member, whatever, during the holidays? Have y'all ever gotten into some drama like that? Just start arguing? Y'all ever done that? So my question to you is, how do you de-escalate that? Because sometimes, when certain people come to the gatherings, it's gonna be some mess. You already know the relatives or whoever, when they get there, that's just when all the energy change. You know what I'm saying? So how do you do that? All right, so Derek says depends. Let them vent, cry, be silent, etc., or share laughs, encouraging words, pray for them, get them out of the house. You know what? That is really good. I really love that. And I think that's a good thing to do, especially the praying for them. Sometimes I'll just send, my counsel, as I call them, or people that I know that are grieving, I'll just send a random prayer, right? Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I think that's really important. So Miss Woodson says argued over spades game. Listen, that's why I don't play spades like that no more. I learned my lesson. Okay. There's a couple games I'm gonna stay away from. Spades and Monopoly. Okay. And maybe even Uno. Because sometimes Uno can turn so personal, especially when you gotta no, 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 that ain't cool. All right, so let's see. Arguments. I had to check two relatives this weekend. Wow. One politely, once not so much. Absolutely. And that happens. That happens. I mean, because there are so many emotions that are going on. There's so much that can be going on, from financial stuff, like I said, the expectations, or they're dealing with some type of inner battle themselves, right? All right, so let's see here. So Wilson says, I have a lot of emotion about my loss. I try to stay in the realization that it's part of the journey. That's true. You had a major loss, uh, Malik. You had a major loss. And really all loss. Well, I don't want to downplay anybody's losses. So when I say major, I'm just speaking in terms of Malik's loss. Yeah, because he lost his son. And I hear, once you lose a child, like, that loss is like, it's unlike any other loss. I don't have any children, so I really don't know. But I've so love and light to you as well. All right, so let's see here. So what are some techniques to de-escalate the drama, y'all? Listen, I think it's important to set expectations and boundaries in advance, right? So what does that mean? If you know you can't play spades, listen, we're not gonna play spades. If you know that you can't talk about politics, and we know with the current climate, that can cause a lot of arguing, discord, or whatever. Just look, before cousin Earl and them get here, we not gonna talk about politics. We not playing spades with cousin Earl. We're gonna play checkers or something. Whatever you have to do. Seriously, like, I think that's important. So Vernon says, my mom told me, let God handle it. It's hard and take time to clear your mind. Yes, it is a day by day thing. I'm telling you, the words day by day and surrender, that's at the top for me, right? I've had to really learn to surrender and let God have it, because I'm telling you, I'm one of them people. My counsel will tell y'all, listen, I'm trying to, like, resolve it on my own, but that's something that I really had to learn. So Derek says, a lot of times I de-escalate by leaving. Listen, Derek, and I'm gonna applaud you because some people be sitting up there, they'll be sitting up there in the mix and they in there having an anxiety attack and feeling stressed. No, it is okay. It is okay. It is not selfish. When you are being intentional about your self-care, about your mental health, that ain't it's nothing selfish about that. Yeah, at me. Y'all can at me all day long because I ain't gonna bend on that. Oh, hey, thank you so much for joining me. I appreciate you. All right, so boom. All right, so let's see here. What other ways? Use active listening. Okay, and sometimes y'all, sometimes you just have to be the bigger person. And I tell you what, I have learned that sometimes you just gotta use active listening. You just gotta listen. Just you remember when you was a kid, like the imaginary zipper on your lips. Just listen. Practice active listening. Sometimes, and sometimes just by you being silent and listening, I don't believe in winning when it comes to arguing, right? Especially when it comes to people I love. I don't even want to win with you. If I want to win with you, I don't love you. I just want understanding and resolution, right? So I'm learning, zip it and listen, right? And plus, by doing that, that helps the other person to feel validated and all of that stuff. And listen without interruption. Like I said, I am a work in progress. Okay. All right, so let's see here. So Wilson says, set rules and stick to them with family, regardless of your feelings. We usually all got something we really want to tell. Absolutely, we do. And sometimes it's something that you've been wanting to tell somebody for like 5, 10 years, but you ain't said it yet, right? You have to figure that out. And if you are harboring or holding on to something, can I give you some advice? Write a letter so you can get that out of your system. Because when we hold on to things, whether it's unforgiveness, whatever it is, that can make you sick, whether mentally, physically, spiritually, right? That can make you really sick. Okay, so let's see here. Take breaks. We've mentioned that. And choose, like I said, choose your battles. For real, choose your battles. Like I said, all things don't require your energy, and that's okay. And so you really ain't even got to get your lick back all the time. I've learned I don't even want my lick back. I'm gonna let God do it. That's part of that surrendering piece. Because, like I said, my counsel will tell you, they will tell you about my growth. And if my father was living, he would tell you about my growth too. Because that's one thing. Before my father passed, I was able to have all these conversations, and I'm so blessed for that. One thing my father said to me, you really grown and you should be proud of yourself. Yeah, right. So I've grown. I've grown through some things, y'all. All right, so let's see here. Where else do I want to go? What else do y'all have? What else y'all got for me? Anything? All right. So this is another area that I want to look at, y'all. Now, I recently had a conversation with a friend, and actually he posted on my page. Y'all know Daniel Artest. That's one of my close friends. And he's on this journey he's on this new journey. And one thing that he is being intentional about is self-love, self-care, healing, and things of that sort. Because the cards that life dealt him, he really hasn't taken that time to do that. So, what are some ways that y'all love on yourself? What are some ways that you practice self-care? And let's just keep it in on topic as far as the holidays. What are some ways that you practice self-care during the holidays? What y'all got for me? So I'll give y'all a chance to think about that. All right. And so one thing I'm gonna add on here, and I'm gonna go ahead and bring my guest on so that we can have a conversation. One thing that I've learned is to say no. I'm okay with saying no. I say it with my whole chest now. My nose have gotten a lot stronger over the years because I ain't gonna lie to kick it. During my younger years, I feel like I was a people pleaser. I wanted to please everybody around me, right? So even though I knew good and damn well I didn't want to go to this engagement, I didn't want to do this, and I got all this other stuff going on, it was really hard for me to say no, right? Which led to my migraines I used to have, headaches, getting sick, right? And I get these flashes in front of my eyes when I get really stressed. I ain't doing that to myself no more. No. And it might be a hell no, depending on what it is. And that's okay, right? That's okay. So Nikki says, I love me. I know you do, Leo. You gotta love you. Because if you don't love you, who gonna love you? You gotta love yourself first, especially for other people to love you. So M. Woodson says, yes, boundaries are important. Yes, boundaries are very important. You got to have those boundaries. You have to. And there's a whole book about it too. I'll post it in the timeline so y'all can see it. But there's a book about boundaries, and it talks about boundaries with various relationships, whether it's your parents, whether it's your children, whether it's yourself, boo, husband, wife, all of that. Boundaries are very important. So Nikki, my fabulous, beautiful admin says, I do anything that makes me happy. I decorate my house with Christmas lights and decor. It feels cheerful for me. Absolutely. You have to create an environment. Creating an environment that's positive is really important. And one way to do that as well is to declutter, is to totally declutter. My counsel will tell you, I've been on this whole decluttering thing, right? Like, because it makes me feel better. And it's good to even purge certain things, like even like I told you all, I did go through my divorce or whatever. And there was just things I didn't need no more. Like I don't need this no more. And to actually get rid of that, to me, to purge that, that only added to my healing journey. So that's that. All right, so let me go ahead and bring on my guest so that we can have a conversation. Let's see here. So we have Music Man, and then we have Mark Lee.
What up? What up? What up, beautiful people? What up,
Hello,
Lisa?
hello, hello, hello.
Hey, hey,
So
hey.
Yeah.
I want to
Oh,
ask y'all this. So, what are you all doing? Because I mean, women, you hear us saying, oh, self-love, self-care, we going to do this and that, right? Like it is nothing for us to take that time to self-care. You as Black men, how do you love on yourself during the holidays?
I'll let Mr. Lee go first, and I'll tell you.
well, sometimes self care is something as simple as relaxing and, like you said earlier, spending that time with family and relatives and all along those lines. And sometimes, and I said, I think one of the last times I was on, I was due for one and I'm due for another one since it's been about 2 weeks. But sometimes that barbershop mentality, which I know Music Man can relate to as well, can definitely be something that can give us some self love because we can enjoy the conversation that it is in the barbershop, whether it's with your main barber or some of the other folks that may walk in, because actually the barbershop that I go to is a unisex barbershop, so there might be both women and guys that are coming in that particular barbershop that just a Muslim brother that I know owns, and all along those lines. So sometimes that is a way of self-love and all along those lines. So sometimes it's just that, or having a relaxing game. You were talking earlier about spades and things like that. Ironically, we did not play the game that was a popular gathering game this particular holiday gathering. We got to mom's house, meaning my mom's house, and it was me and some relatives. Well, me and my brother, my two nephews, one of my aunts, and then later a cousin came by and everything. But we play a game called Spinner. So if you're familiar with dominoes, it's just like dominoes, and it has the same rules as dominoes. But that is a family game that a lot of times we'll have after a good meal and all along those lines. So sometimes that good meal, and of course watching the sports, because I know that we are fans of certain teams. My cousin is a Steelers fan. I'm a Vikings fan, even though none of us lived in those respective cities and everything, but we became fans of those teams. So that can be a way to relax as well. So there are various ways that you can relax and everything. So I'm gonna turn it back over to the Music Man and hear what he says. But I was gonna bring up something, and after Music Man, because you're talking about loss and the loss that goes on, I wanted to share something that my cousin brought up and everything. But I'll hear from Music Man, and then I'll share with y'all what took place that actually caught me off guard. But it was one of those holiday gathering messages.
Okay, okay. So what you got for us, Reese? How do you, as a man, practice self-care during the holidays?
Oh, one of them. I'm a big cologne collector, so fragrance for the fragrance head. So for a brother that owns over 40 fragrances, I got two on the way right now. So
Hmm.
I got to tell you about this new one I got coming. So I believe in kind of a little bit of retail therapy, going to the barbershop, making myself look fine as wine, dressing up well, so smelling good, feeling good, giving positive vibes to people, really loving on people. So during holiday seasons, I believe in sponsoring families that are in need, going to homeless shelter, giving. So really just take care of myself, making sure I do things and gather things that I love, like fragrance, music. Obviously, thus, be a music man. I always, have things that I collect for the studio, whether it's new sounds, spend some time in the studio making new beats. So I really just make sure that I spend time and gather things that I love that I'm passionate about, which is fragrance, clothing, music. If it's sports, it's basketball. So I love basketball. I got, that in the arsenal. So I just really just spend time, doing things I love and with the people I love. So, but yeah, I definitely,
And
go ahead.
no, I'm going to say, and that's really a good thing. Like volunteering, you mentioned about sponsoring families and stuff like that. That is definitely something that is good to do. Like,
Yes.
for self-care, because when you help others, not that that should be the reason why you help others. There
Yeah.
is a direct benefit from that. There is
Oh,
an
absolutely.
absolute benefit from that.
Because, I mean, I clearly believe, the Bible always talks about, love that God with all their heart and love yourself as you
Mhm.
love, your neighbor. So it's like, love that neighbor. So it's like, I believe in by spreading love, that reciprocity comes back. It may not be direct, but if you're spreading love, you're going to get love. That energy always circles back. It boomerangs. So I believe in
Mhm.
spreading love, spreading positivity, and that's part of my self-care journey. And always living in gratitude. Thanksgiving is not the only time we should be giving thanks. Like every single day, like just wake
Mhm.
up with the mind of gratitude. So that's huge in self-care because that allows you to be in a state of peace and joy. Because if we're searching for happiness, happiness is fleeting. If you look for stuff to be happy, you're always going to be searching. But if you decide to be in a place of gratitude, you're going to be joyous, and that's internal versus external.
Absolutely. And we actually have a couple comments. Let me get to a couple of these comments real quickly. Y'all know how I feel about bringing on comments. Okay, so Nikki says, mornings I like to sit on the deck drinking my coffee, watching the sunrise to start my day. It feels refreshing. All right. And so Nikki also says, my husband likes to either relax at home or hang out with family. It's a great way for him to release. He also buys unnecessary gadgets. Absolutely. You know,
I mean, unnecessary,
I guess that would be kind of
no.
like retail therapy a little bit because I'm all about retail therapy. That's how I ended
Yeah.
up with so much stuff and I had to declutter. But
I mean,
yeah, absolutely.
I mean, truth be told, I mean, does a man need 40 fragrances? Probably not. But I mean, I have them and growing. So, I mean,
Mhm.
there's a little bit retail therapy in that, but I smell good though.
Well, there's something about aromas that can help to lift your mood, right?
Facts.
Which is self-care. Like I know lavender and frankincense and myrrh, eucalyptus. So there's different types of aromas, if you will, scents, whatever, that can actually lift your mood. So let's
Facts.
see here. So M. Wilson says the best revenge is ignoring in my opinion. Absolutely it is. You win actually.
Mm-hmm.
When you can walk away, when you can ignore, do you know how much power is in that? When you can walk away and not get your lick back, there's so much power in that. And to me, you win. So Derek says, I sing a lot, play healing tunes, self affirmation, workouts, absolutely, karaoke, open mic, reading, absolutely, time with loved ones.
Oh yeah.
That
How could I?
meditation is huge.
Yeah.
Meditation is absolutely huge. Praying goes without
Yeah.
saying.
Praying. Yeah.
Meditation is huge. Absolutely.
How could I not forget about that? I spend the first 2 hours of my day working out. So absolutely, workouts, prayer. That's how I start my day every day. 2 hour workouts. About 30 minutes in prayer. So absolutely, that is a huge part of my self care.
Yeah,
You
it's so true.
mentioned, hey Lisa, you mentioned listening earlier because that actually came up, and that's what I was going to get to. Because sometimes listening and also memories can be a double-edged sword, and I'll explain that in a minute. But listening can be very interesting because you mentioned the loss of your dad and everything along those lines. But I actually had one of my cousins. It's the only cousin that made it up in this trip because we had a much smaller gathering. People had different trips that they were doing, and different celebrations at different locations. So it was a smaller gathering, and part of that was what you just said. There had been losses in the family, so some of the members are no longer here because I think of the four of my dad and the three uncles that I have and everything, dad is the only one that is still living and everything. So all my three uncles on my mom's side, because I don't, if I've got any, they're distant because dad was an only child and everything. So there might be like some crazy cousin type relatives and everything that are in New York. But on mom's side, all my uncles have passed, so they would not be at that gathering. But one of the cousins was speaking about something that I did not know, and it really caught me off guard. But he wanted to share it, and since he wanted to share it, I listened because, as you said earlier, one of the most devastating things that you probably can have is a loss of a loved one, and I mean a loss of a particularly a child and everything. And he was telling me how a young lady that he had been in a relationship with basically kind of, in his words, and I'm paraphrasing it, seduced him into a relationship, and a child was about to be created, but that child was miscarried. So he shared that with me and everything. But this was something that took place almost 8 years ago, because he told me that daughter, that if I had had it, she'd be 8 years old, and he had no intention of ever having a marriage with that woman because he definitely felt that it was like a mistake. But he also was going to care for the child because he's that kind of responsible person. So even though he was not planning to take care of the child, he was going to be responsible for that child if the child had been born. But I didn't even, I think other family members knew about this near relatives that I was to have. What did that be? That would be my second cousin that would have been in the family tree and everything. But I didn't even know till cousin Jonathan shared that with me this past weekend and everything along those lines. So that definitely caught me off guard, but I just took it as a time because he wanted to share it, to listen, because we were having moments of thinking about family, thinking about things that are going and everything like that. So since he wanted to share with me this near relative that I almost had, I just sat back and listened to him. So sometimes that's what you have to do, is listen if folks are grieving, because we're talking about how folks take things on a festive season, because he just retired and is getting ready to retire from the Georgia Bureau of Investigations and everything. So I'm sure he's reflecting on his life and what he wants the life to be in the next few years, because he's in his early 50s, so he retired at a relatively young age and everything like that, because he is now officially retired from the GBI, and he'll look at some other business ventures. But he wanted to share this near family member that I almost had that I didn't have and everything like that. So
Yeah,
that's
absolutely.
the thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And I like what you said about the listening piece too, because I mean that sometimes that's all it takes is just to really listen,
Right.
So let me see here. So Malik says self-love for me is staying away from outside distractions. And you know what? Absolutely. And that's another tip that I was going to give as well. I think it's important to balance social time and solitude. Like there's so much peace and reflection that happens when you are in solitude, and that in itself is self-care, right? I have a friend that is a social butterfly, and they seldom take time to be alone, to have that solitude. When you are constantly dealing with other energy and on the go and all that stuff, and you don't take time to get quiet, eventually that's going to wear on you. Another thing I would say too, it looks like our time, so I'm going to actually we're going to kind of move this along, so we can get to the end of this. So, okay, so another thing, I have friends and family that always host, right? Hosting Christmas, New Year's, Thanksgiving, or whatever, right? And my advice to them and to anyone who always hosts and feel like they have to do everything, delegate responsibilities. You ain't got to do all that on your own,
Yep.
right? Even though you like it a certain way, and I overstand that. However, it is important to delegate those responsibilities. Why should you wear yourself out, right? And always, always prioritize your mental
Yep.
and emotional health. You got to do that by whatever means. And like I said, that's not being selfish, that's being selfless to
No,
yourself, okay?
you
So,
definitely got to do that. Hey, Lisa, just really quickly, and I'd love to hear you and Music Man thoughts on this. I know we're winding down on time, but I love my mom to death. I have a great passion for both my mom and my dad, as well as all my family members and everything. But one of the things that came up during Christmas and everything was, if you are fortunate enough to live to a certain phase in your life, whether that's 50s or 60s or even 40s, you will have different relationships and everything. And there was a point in the conversation where mom brought up, I know at least 3 or 4 of my ex-girlfriends, and wondering that whether I had still kept in touch with them or how they were doing and all along those lines and everything. So like I said, while I appreciate my mom, it did kind of catch me off guard, and I get it. She remembers them from holiday gatherings because some of them had been at those holiday gatherings, and they weren't there this particular time. So I get where mom was coming from in asking for them, but it was just kind of interesting. I'm going like, in some cases, we're in the same circles, meaning the entertainment circles, so that I may run across some of them on occasion, but there are other ones that I have totally lost touch with. So I'm sitting there going like, I have no idea what that child is doing and everything, and don't know that I want to know what they're doing. But it was just interesting that mom was curious as to how they were doing, and part of that might be wanting to know if there was a possibility of a renewed flame, because we know that moms like renewed flames and everything along those lines. But I just wondered if y'all had ever run across that, either you, Music Man, or you, Lisa, where folks have asked you about past relationships during these family gatherings, particularly during the holidays.
For me, yeah. I mean, my divorce was just a year ago.
Yeah.
So, I have family members that was like, I didn't know you was divorced. I actually went to the UNCF gala last weekend, and I ran into a family member, and they were like, they asked a question. I'm like, yeah, I ain't married no more. They was like, we didn't know you was divorced. What's how what happened? How's he doing? Whatever, whatever. Personally, me, I know that when you get into relationships, and we're gonna have to brush this, but when we get into relationships and things like that, there are ties there. For me personally, I'm just one of those people where I wish you well, but I don't have to be in contact with you. I don't have to know how you doing during the holidays. Like, I haven't contacted my husband to ask him how he's doing or anything like that. And I think it's really important too when you are in a new relationship. And sometimes you have to create those boundaries, because I've been in situations where, I've been at someone's house, and this person was clearly married, but the mother like the ex. And so it was just, to me, that's disrespectful. You feel me? I feel like, especially if you moved on, I don't care how my exes is doing. I wish y'all well when we departed. I mean, when we broke up or whatever, that was it. I wish you well. I don't have to check on you for the holidays. And everybody is different. I am not the blueprint for how you moved. As me personally, I'm forward motion. I like to keep moving forward. And I don't have children with anyone either. So I don't feel like I have to keep those ties. Did you want to say something really quickly, Reese? Because we about to wrap this up.
Yeah, I just kind of share the same sentiment, as far as that goes. I don't like look backwards on that stuff. I mean, um, I've been a good person, so people, will try to reach out to me, but I keep forward motion, so
Yeah,
I don't
absolutely.
I don't do fugazi.
Yeah, and it's no animosity. I don't have any
Nah.
animosity. All forgiveness in my heart. I ain't even mad at nobody. I just don't have to stay in contact with you. And you know,
Reese, isn't it sometimes, like as I alluded to it, it sometimes is more difficult when you're in certain fields. Like I imagine that doctors and nurses, because they might wind up working together and everything. And the same with the entertainment field, because like I said, I know that there are a couple of my exes that are still in the entertainment field. So I know that whether I am with a new relationship or not a new relationship, currently I'm not in the middle of a relationship, that they will have to realize that there might be times that they were going to run across people that might have been in my life before, and maybe even intimately in my life, just because of the nature of the entertainment game, particularly if you're in a small market like the way Durham, North Carolina is, which is where I'm at.
absolutely, and
Yeah.
that goes for anything, because a lot of times when you run into circles, like, usually when you are with someone, there's probably going to be similar circles,
Right,
regardless of the industry. You
right.
know what I
Yeah.
mean? So, but again, it's a case by case. You have to deal with that accordingly. I'm just a forward motion person.
No,
You know what
same
I'm
here.
saying? So I don't have to keep in contact with, an ex to know how they're doing, their family doing, or anything like that. To me, it's not going to add to my life. So, with that being said, Vernon actually has a comment, and then we're going to go ahead and wrap this up. Being in control of my own happiness, solitude, and health. Absolutely. You must be in control of that. And only you can control that. So with that being said, we are going to end this here. All right. I'm gonna go ahead and take y'all. Thank y'all for joining me. Stick around for a second. Um, all right, boom. Okay, so boom. So y'all heard it here first. Thank y'all so much for joining me tonight. I really appreciate you. I hope that this show has giving you some ways to deal with grief, loss, maybe how you move during the holidays, okay? Because I mean, we're all human, and sometimes you have those moments, and that's okay. Just realize that it is okay to be human. You have to be human first. And that's something that I've a lesson that I've had to learn. You have to be human first. This being perfect, no, be human first. All right. So again, please make sure that you're liking across all platforms. On YouTube is Relationship Soup, period. You must put the period in there. Okay. Come and join the forum. We have some conversations in there. Oh my goodness. It is a hot topic. I'm going to talk about it next show. It's going to be hot. Okay. It's hot now. I mean, the comments are blowing up now. Get in there. It's Relationship Soup Group. IG is Relationships. If you want to follow me, it's Relationship Soup LLC. Okay. And then, of course, hit up the forum, okay, for apparel and greeting cards and things of that sort. Okay. Again, thank y'all so much. I'm wishing you all prayer, love, and light through these holidays, right? Through the rest of this year. And like always, love yourself. And I have to give my shout outs, y'all. Let me give my shout outs. Mama, thank you so much for listening. You know I love you. Right? Thank you so much for listening, Aunt Anna. And I want to give a special shout out to Lyric as well. So with that being said, y'all, love yourself. It is not selfish to love on yourself. It's selfless. All right. Until we meet next time. Peace.